There's an antique shop.
Books and Friends.
Just up the road over by like Zen Leaf and that breakfast place. And they have like a few different mugs in there that I want to like go and check out.
Yeah.
I went in there, I think, with Mia, and it was my sister.
Okay.
And we went to, and it was like a Morton salt shaker, a little girl with an umbrella, and it was like really cool, and I wanted to like get it, but I didn't.
So, but it's probably not there, right? If it's an antique shop, or was this recently?
This was probably summertime.
Okay.
So it might still be there, but just talking about the mugs, it just made me like, you can kind of find some cool collectibles of things if you want to collect them.
Yeah. A lot of cool stuff out there. I had 2 books for the Lord of the Rings series, and then I found the third there. Because, there's some books that they just have 100 copies of it every Goodwill or, St. Vincent de Paul or whatever. And Lord of the Rings is one of them where you can just find, collections of each 3.
Yeah.
But I just took the third book out of one collection, so I felt bad, but...
Obviously I have to keep it, like, HIPAA, but one of the kids I work with, I do, like, in-home stuff. Mm-hmm. And... they're like homeschooled,
Yeah.
So I wanted to like, it was a completely new thing for me, but their family does like morning readings, and they have the Hobbit books and the Lord of the Ring books.
Yeah.
That they just bought, and they like have like sit down reading times. It's like I'll literally be like, sit down and enjoy it with them.
Listen in, yeah. The homeschooling thing is definitely a weird angle because it's not private school, it's not public school, it's like you're just hanging out with your parents probably, right? Or did they have like a homeschool teacher?
Well, I can't go like
you can't go into it, obviously. Yeah, let's change that.
No, but we can, I actually do like, would be interested to talk like, what's your opinion on like homeschooling,
Yeah.
And schooling in general.
Yeah.
Like, where do you think, let's just say the American system, let's keep it to that, like where we're what we're doing
what's
right,
gonna happen?
Wrong, because obviously you have a little buddy on the way, and I think we started this conversation in Halloween. Obviously, it probably wasn't the best time, but obviously, conversation's worth having.
Yeah, a lot of the school stuff is crazy because, number one, it's just a bunch of kids together, so there's always going to be some weird variables, no matter what school you go to or what place you go to, and I don't think you're able to really. Like, you can't choose the friends of your kid. And I think so much of people's development is the friends that they have or the lack thereof of, like, friends that they have.
Yeah. They call it socializing. Yeah.
So and it's like, it's to what movies you like, what music you like, what do you do with your time, what do you find value in, that's all. Up to a point it's your parents, but then once you are your own adult and you're trying to figure out your own identity, it's like having that social group where you can push and feel boundaries and like, oh, you don't like this music, I like this music, and you can tell based on different people's opinions, who you are.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people who maybe miss that and like don't have a friend group or don't connect with people that easily, sometimes they can have like identity issues. Even though you'd think, oh, you're hanging out with yourself all the time, you'll be able to understand yourself, not having that, at least at some point, a bunch of people to be pushing against and trying to understand what's going on with. Because it's so much of a, like, you're building yourself with other people as that community is a social creature.
And, like, the most control you're going to have with that as a parent is, like, choosing what school to get this general range of kids.
Yeah.
What is my kid going to grow up with? Like, from homeschool, it's going to be like, I have full control over that. You know, I can put them here or there, this exterior thing with people to try to socialize and stuff, but there's that on the far end of the spectrum, and then there's like really, really private schools or like where we only have this type of religion or like community, this like we expect this things from not only the family but the schooling, so I think there's a lot of choice in like the general environment that you can give your kid, obviously from like money, right? Like, good quality schools or nice public schools to like lower funded public schools and stuff like that. And obviously, like talking to Mia, she's gonna become a teacher. Like, the levels of different types of schools now, like schools for just people with dyslexia, people that are bilingual, like English is not their first language, state by state. It's different depending on what the need is for the kids. So like, there's choice, but is there really like what you're saying, like as much choice as we think? And I don't think there is.
Yeah. Well, I read a book that was called Freakonomics, and they talked a little bit about what aspects of parenting influence like the growth of your child, or like how much impact does a parent actually have. And they have all these statistics based on different surveys the government's done over time. So it's all skewed a little bit because it's, government. So you're talking to a government official. Or so if they're asking, do you spank your child? You're talking to a government person and telling them, yes, I do, or no, I don't. So it's a little skewed, but I know one of the things they took out from that was if the parent is just interested in their child doing well in school. So with the Chicago public school system in the, I think, early 90s or 80s, they did a lottery ticket system because there were some schools that were really good, really high performing, did well on tests. The kids, higher percentage went to college. And then there was like schools that weren't there at all. They were doing poorly. Most people didn't graduate. The teachers didn't really seem to care as much, or whatever it was, right? So you have these totally two different groups. So they said, okay, we're doing like choice school. Like you can go wherever you want, but it's a lottery system because obviously everybody wants to go to the nice school.
Yeah.
And what they found was as long as you submitted an application to go to the big school, you were much more likely to do better, right? So there's some kids who they just were going to stay going to the same neighborhood school that might have not been a great school and never have submitted an application to go to the better school. And so they're like not as likely to succeed as somebody who their parent gets them in and they do all the applications and they try to talk to the teacher and they call ahead. They try to, work the angles of what they can do to get their child into a better school. Yeah. Like having that support is like what's important. Not as much as like, oh, you're in the better school, so you're going to do good. Or you're going to go to college because you're in the better school. It's, are you trying? Like in your summers, are you doing things to keep up everything you learned the past year with your parent? Like being involved and trying to, some go over the top. Like my mom, she had us do like ACT tests the year before we took the ACT in the summer.
We did like a training class.
Yeah, or a training class. Yeah. Or even when I was in third grade, one of the things I would have to do to go play with my friends is do like 2 sheets in a math workbook. Just so it's, something, it takes 30 minutes and it's just something so I keep some retention of what happened the previous year. Where you come back to school and then the teacher has to spend the first half of the whatever trimester reteaching everything you learned in the last one just so you can pick up the new stuff, because so many kids over the summer don't.
Yeah, at a certain point, like, you want to be giving your kid your own kind of homework. Yeah. That kind of provides that, like, responsibility and, like, just understanding that, like, hey, work hard, play hard. Like, we got to do things that keep you on your toes. And especially, like, at least with my family, and I know with your family, it was, like, the extracurricular activities, the continuation of, like, just things that are productive and good for you, and setting up environments around you where you could
you have socialize. And it's hard for a kid is not going to be able to sign themselves up for a swim team or for a soccer team. That's exactly. It's as a parent have to be, at least it seems at this point to me, like you have to be involved, and the more involved you are, generally the better it is.
Yeah, to jump back to your point where you were saying like a lot of the success from this book, you were saying Freakonomics. I think my dad has that. I'm probably going to read that. But it is that intentional effort from the parents. It's not necessarily just what school, because you could just send your kid to any school and just, let's let them figure it out, Yeah. But the balance of how much control you have as a parent is probably going to be a lot of jump ropes and
confusion. But the hard part is there's a lot of parents who are like a single parent and they have to work and they just can't like give their kid a summer school program to keep them up on their math and reading in school. And then so they come back the next year and they're behind, and the other kids who are more privileged to have that ability to have math tests and books in the house and been taken to the library, or you get babysitters who actually like read to you instead of just being there. I mean, it's like every single step of the way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I find myself a lot doing that kind of reflection of like it used to be, truthfully, used to be a lot of negative, like looking back, like this, but like if you just kind of look back and see like, what influenced me as a child, what were my experiences, and how does that put me where I'm at right now, or how did that affect to where I'm at, and how is that going to affect my future? And I think that is like something to kind of segue, is like, not only is it the actual physical people in your life, it's like, especially nowadays, like the what information, what media you're consuming. You know what I'm saying? Like, because this whole new word, what iPad kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's worse than a babysitter that's not caring. You know what I'm saying? So I think the education system is trying to adjust to that. I think it's going to be too quick of a change. No,
and it's hard because a lot of the teachers are going to be iPad kids in 2 years, 3 years. Like, I have a sibling who's in school right now, in high school, and he has a teacher who, like, right after COVID, she's just watching TikTok on her phone, and she says it's like reading time in the class because they're all reading a book or whatever, and she's just on TikTok, and they can hear the TikTok videos on her phone because they're like not connected to her AirPods, and so they're all on TikTok on their phones, like, and they stopped doing the like teacher assessments, at least for a period. I don't know if I think somebody said they might bring them back. I don't know. But it was apparently COVID. Yeah, or it was after, because they said it's too much pressure on the teacher to teach under that stress of having a administrator in the room. So there's like no, it's like impossible to like have a teacher that has to like have a consequence for that action of not teaching. You know, because they can't ever confirm it, because they can never be in the classroom and watch her teach.
Yeah, that blows my mind. I mean, obviously, I can't imagine that's everybody, but there's probably a lot more people like that. You know?
It's hard because it was at least when I started high school, it was no cell phones at all out anywhere. And then by the time I graduated, everybody had a Chromebook. It could be open at any time in the hallways. Phones were essentially the same thing as a Chromebook. There was maybe 1 or 2 classes where you couldn't have it out, or something like PE where you're running. You like can't have the Chromebook out, or you're doing some other like job study thing, like I took an electronics class, and you have to be doing you can't just be on your Chromebook or watching a video. There's like a physical thing you have to do. Oh, did you know another thing they changed is there's no more like mile run standardized physical testing in PE.
Really?
Yeah.
No pacer test?
No pacer test.
Nothing?
It's too not appropriate to have people like be challenged physically, which I kind of get, because it's it's essentially just military testing.
It's standards, right? Yeah.
So you can be like, are you of military like ability if you needed to go to the military, because you need to be able to run a mile in whatever under 7 minutes, do your 10 pull-ups, do your push-ups, sit-ups. Like, that's what it's based around. You know?
I kind of see that.
So I get that side, but at the same time, it's like the general health of a 16 or 18-year-old can be measured by their mile time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
as long as you're adjusting the standard in some sort of way, but if you're just removing it, like, I guess I don't know what happened. You probably know more than me, but...
No, that's all I know for that he said, because I asked him, like, are you going to do whatever? We were just eating dinner at my parents' house, and I said, what's the mile? Are you going to do the mile this year or something like that? Because we were talking about working out. And he's in like the fitness program class where they do more of the running and working out. And he said, no, we don't do that anymore.
Have you...
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Speaking just the connection between, like, the schooling was connected, for the military, we needed those stats for blah, blah, blah. Have you done any research into, like, the origin of, like, the American education system and, like, where we got information from, which was, like, the Prussian governments?
I know like, kindergarten is a German word for, like,
kindergarten.
Garden of kids. Like that.
Yeah, we're growing them.
I know that.
Into soldiers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I know people say it's like partially factory workers, like learning how to sit and work.
Well, that's exactly it. It was the Prussians. They did it mainly to build like compliant soldiers, because they thought that was the reason why they lost a big war.
Yeah.
Right. But like Rockefeller and all like the oil barons and all, they infiltrated our education board and were like,
actually, we're doing
factories. Yeah. That's what we need. We're doing a modified version, and obviously, we're in the remnants of that. I think we've come a long way in education, but a lot of like the sinkholes and problems that we have are like really tied to like
those old
decisions.
Well, it's hard also because, like, in the Chicago area, we're part of the Rust Belt, so we're part of the area that had super production, like pre and post World War II, up until like the 60s, where we had auto plants and meat packing districts and all these actual factory jobs that somebody could have and then live off of and like move up in. So it makes sense that if that's how 85% of the people are going to be having their jobs, then for the school that makes total sense to have them adjusted to that. You know, get there at 7 o'clock, we start working, you go from place to place, station to station,
definitely, and
then you have a lunch break, you know, you get to go outside for a little bit.
Right, you can definitely see the parallels, and I definitely agree with you in that sense. It's like, it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just like what was needed and how the people that can city skylines control things, you know, like,
exactly.
Like, this is what we need and it's what we're going to do.
And it's harder now because there's not as many of those jobs. Like, that's why it's called the Rust Belt, because all the steel factories and stuff are all rusting because there's nobody working there. And but they don't, you know. How
do we pay attention to that? Like, look at past, present, future effects of like different things and like quickly adjust and put in what is best for like the education system.
I think the problem is we're not sure what jobs really are other than computers, like a vague computer term that everybody's kind of working on a computer. And that's all we really know. Because obviously there's still some manufacturing jobs and there's always going to be the trades of, you know, you can go and be an electrician or a plumber or something. Those jobs will always be there.
Someone needs to polish the robots.
Yeah, exactly. But it's hard because if you don't have 85% of your kids when they graduate high school going to a factory, and I don't know if that's the number or whatever, but the majority of, like, you know, working age men who left high school, weren't going to college, would go work in a factory. And there's a straight line of like how that works.
Exactly.
But that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's just kind of vague.
Well,
so it's like, do you make the schools more computer oriented? But then it's like, if you don't go to college, there's a good chance you're not working on a computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear that.
That's like how I see it, at least, is like those jobs are like, who's staying at home working right now? It's a lot of people with college degrees and right?
Yeah. I think what will be valued the more, let's just say, things get automated, or like what we're trending towards, you know, economics wise, like, will be human creativity. Because so many things will be like cut and dry machine like, the more human it is, I think the more value it's going to be, you know. And that if that means art, if that means like community, you know, if you can foster community, if you can, all these traits that we can like really associate with like not machines and not technology, humanity, that will, like, the importance of that, I feel like, is going to skyrocket. So however that gets channeled through all the different avenues of media, society, you know, etc., I think it's going to be interesting. But big, you know, who knows with the people the levers moving like economics around and stuff, like the UBI, that kind of like, you know, like, I don't know
it's
how
hard to understand all that.
It's going to be, the changes is going to be rooted there. You know what I'm saying? Like, how our system and humans change is going to be like, okay, how are we running our economy?
And part of it is how much does everybody who's not running it, like, demand that they get? You know what I mean? Like, a big part of it is like understanding that the person working is the person who has the power. And so if there's something that we see as an injustice or whatever, I mean, that's like the basic social justice, like, memo, is if you see something wrong, you're supposed to like start working towards fixing it.
Yeah.
But I think the other side of that is everybody's just wants to kind of be isolated more and more and more. They want to have a little bit of interaction, a little bit of social, and then, you know, have their own isolated environment. Like, working from home, that's one of the big things that I've noticed is hard, because it'll be a whole week and I'll only see Julia, you know, so unless I go and see friends or go get a haircut or go to the grocery store, there's just nobody else, and it's kind of nice. And that's the problem. It's like, I can watch my shows, play video games, read, do my writing, whatever, and I don't need to see anybody else.
Well, COVID really kind of made that possible.
I know, and showed everybody like, oh, hey, you don't have to go to the office.
Yeah, when we have stores, restaurants, everything is like built for people to pass by and stop and be around. And, you know, Grubhub, I know I feel like a boomer just saying this, but like, there's a lot of truth to like how quickly things have changed, you know, and
really quick,
how much of an effect on will that be, you know?
No, if you didn't use DoorDash to get groceries before COVID, you definitely used them during. Because there was a time where it was like, you go to the grocery store, you might die, you know? So I was like, yeah, I'll just use DoorDash and then I'll let that guy figure it out.
It kind of like really enables like people that would want that kind of isolation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
there's a big, I think it's pretty like common that there's a lot of people who are antisocial in a way that it's not just, oh, I don't really like, I have anxiety about social situations. It's I'm against being social and I'd rather just be alone and not be bothered, and listening to other people upsets me and I don't want to be upset, so I just don't even want to deal with that. I don't think other people should deal with it.
Yeah.
You should just be comfortable and relax and sit back and not have to interact or deal with, you know, people.
Yeah.
Which there's a example of this. Recently we had to get blood work done for Julia's pregnancy thing, and so we had to go to this blood clinic, and it was, so everybody there has to get blood drawn, right?
Yeah.
But it's in a office building with 10 other medical buildings, like offices as part of this one building. So we go in, it's the first door on the right, you sign in on a clipboard, it's like just walk-ins. There's no like appointments like made at all.
Yeah.
And it's on a Saturday. They're open from like 7 till 12. So we're there at 8. We sign up for the thing. It's like a gestational diabetes test. So when you're pregnant, they want to test if you become now susceptible to diabetes because you've gained all this weight or whatever from being pregnant.
Yeah.
So you have to drink a sugary drink, and they take your blood, and then after an hour they take it again to see if your levels are.
What'd she drink?
It's like a doctor's sugar drink.
Oh,
it's
I
like,
thought they would just hand you a soda.
Yeah, no, they should, but it's just like a syrup.
Okay.
It's like Gatorade-esque, she said, I think. But whatever. So it spikes your sugar levels, and then they see how well your body does, like, dealing with it.
Yeah.
So we did that. We were sitting in there for an hour, and they were also doing flu shots in the same building. But it was, like, down the hall. But that was the first, you know, place with a clipboard and a sign-in sheet. And so everybody kept coming in, signing in, sitting down. The whole place would fill up. It was a tiny little center. There wasn't even like rooms where people went to get their blood drawn. It was just like cubicles in the same space.
Yeah.
Maybe like 20 feet by 20 feet.
Yeah.
Really small. And so the whole place would fill up with people. And then one of the doctors would come out and be like, or the nurses, and they'd say, this is not for flu shots. This is just for blood draws. And then like the whole group would get out and leave because there's only 6 or 7 people there for the blood work.
Yeah.
But one of the people, they stood up and they're like, they told us to come over here. What? And they're like yelling at this woman. And she's like, this is just not, we're not doing flu shots here.
He's raising his blood pressure.
Why do you have, why are you so upset?
Yeah.
And then they just stormed out down the halls to get their flu shot. I was like, this is just insane.
Yeah.
You know, because but you also have this other side, which is the same kind of like people just having a weird social stuff in public. A guy walked in with his dog and like a jar full of pee. And he's like, I don't have a label for this. And his dog is barking and going crazy. And all the like nurses are kind of like, don't want to get near the dog because it's kind of going crazy. And everybody's looking over. And he's like, I don't have a label. And he's literally going into the cubicle, like yelling at the nurse lady or the blood drawing medical assistant person. Like, I don't have a label. I'm not sure what should I do with this. And his dog's going crazy. And it was just insane.
Just like an emotional support dog or something?
I didn't seem like it. Yeah. She was not used to being around that many people, it seemed like. He just was on a walk with his dog and had to pee.
Yeah.
Like that he was supposed to see it. Yeah. It was insane. And everybody's like freaking out.
Yeah,
but it's like...
Maybe people that are antisocial, they don't want to deal with things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They don't want to see a guy holding pee.
That a guy's crazy. No. Or whatever. You know, that was just... Yeah, no, but I get it. But it's one thing to have anxiety about it, I think, and another to be... I don't want to be around people.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are kind of battling this, like, comfort war. Like, everything that right now you can really just make yourself comfy, and just, like, comfortable. I've said comfy 3 times. But, like, that's all I'm trying to paint in my mind. It's just, like, there's so many different avenues for you to just, like, set yourself up, in a pad or whatever it is. And COVID, like, for me, dude, when COVID hit... I was like a blessing,
yeah, I know.
bro.
It was the last semester of college. All my teachers were just like, just please turn something in.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, we understand this is a hard time for you.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do the whole... I mean, I wanted to have a graduation ceremony, but I sat at them before. It's not like they're that fun of an event. You just sit around for like...
John Jones?
5 hours.
Yeah. That's my son.
I know. But it's like, that would have been nice, but I didn't do it, and so it's kind of like, okay, something I don't have to deal with, just hang out with my roommates. And I mean, it was hard because you couldn't get a job or anything, but you also like graduated college, and everybody's final projects, the big things, were just kind of like sizzled out. We were supposed to do like these big advertising campaigns and then present them to the customer, and it never happened. Like, we just turned in a PowerPoint slide. And the whole thing is like, you're presenting to people that whatever, they were a Sargento frozen pizza. Yeah. They do like the something like the Hungry Sicilian or something like that. Like, they're big pizzas with the cardboard looking boxes. I don't know. Whatever. They're just these crazy pizzas or whatever, and they're local to Milwaukee. Yeah. And so they signed up to do this program. So everybody came up with a different idea of how to advertise for them. But then we never met with them. We never had any, because all of those parts were... No,
like real world experience of that,
which makes it hard. Yeah,
that stinks. But no, like, it just enabled me. Like obviously, like I had a bunch of friends, obviously, in college at that time, and I knew people. Like, just how I could not imagine being in college.
It's really weird.
At that point, it was really bad. But for me, I was working 2 jobs. Chase. Yeah. They had like signs ready already. Like. The whole, so like, they were quick, right, with this, like, all the changes. So okay, I was like, boom, and then I was working at a restaurant where, like, okay, we're just gonna wear a mask now, and like, business got fried.
Yeah, you know what I'm nobody's saying? Going to it.
Yeah, I literally was like serving and delivery driving, just because all of it was going to house to house. Yeah. But at the time, I just didn't want to like do anything. I was working a bunch, and I was just like, I want to stay inside, play video games, and I just had that excuse. Yeah, that there's a pandemic. I'm saving
checks are coming lives. In. Yeah, there was a guy.
COVID pay too.
Yeah, like, COVID paid. No, there's a guy who was at. So the last place we lived in Wisconsin was a townhouses, kind of like this, but we were on the 2nd floor, and there was a big, like, expanse of lawn around sort of where we were on the corner. So people would walk their dogs like behind it and in that like lawn. And I was outside, and I could hear this guy talking on the phone, and it was probably 2 or 3 years after COVID was done. No, probably like 2 years, talking to someone on the phone, and he's like, yeah, my unemployment ends in like 2 months, so I'm going to start looking for a new job, because he's talking about how he got unemployment from the COVID, and then held it on to it for 2.5 years of just getting, I think it was like 33% more than what he was getting for his job. And so he just held on to it for 2.5 years. And he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about going and looking for a new job. It was just like, what? Like, other people are out here working, But, I mean, it's kind of smart to play the system if you don't have to. But, I mean, it also probably stunts you. Yeah. Like, professionally. Yeah. To not be working, but...
I remember applying for it, and they're like, you can get $60 a month. I was like, I just need help.
Because you're a great salary,
Yeah. Because, like, I had jobs, but it was like you could still file for unemployment. Sure. It was weird, just because of, like, based upon how much money you're making.
Yeah, right? Like some additional income or whatever.
And, of course, I was just like, let's see if I can even do this. And it was, like, estimated. I was like, no help at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Where some people are just set up where they have like a little salary and they're just hired, and then they get fired because of COVID, and they're just perfectly set up to take the unemployment.
Wild times.
Yeah, I know.
Just a quick blurb, because I love kind of like retracing my steps, right? I told you, working 2 jobs when COVID hit, and it was like too much. Like, a lot of things in here, I was just like, I got to get out of Illinois. Yeah. Right? So my sister was like, hey, come over to Arizona, let's go. I can get you a job. Or basically, I knew her good friend growing up. Yeah. And it was like, hey, I can get you a job at this dispensary. No problem. And nice. Like, right? So go out there, and it's like just mad different from what Illinois was. Like, the whole vibe towards COVID, let's say. Like, obviously it's nice out too, so people are outside a lot. But in the dispensary, it was very just masks. Like, that was the only thing that I cared about, and everybody has it here, it was a whole different vibe. It wasn't serious. Yeah. But that was like honestly like a necessary like split I needed, because it was like I was kind of like losing my mind in Illinois.
Yeah, no, because my parents got a lake house in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
and they would come up and be like, "What the heck? Everybody's at the grocery store." No, because after 2 weeks in Wisconsin, it was kind of like it's over.
we did the
it was like 50% over for probably a year.
Yeah,
where nobody's wearing their masks in the grocery store, nobody's following any of the guidelines. Essentially, it's just regular.
Yeah.
And so, my parents, when they went up to Wisconsin, like, it's insane up here. Everybody's waving and saying hi, and walking their dog with no mask on, and it was just less. I really wasn't down here much during it, just because it was more of a hassle to come down. But everything they were saying, it was just like people would confront them in the grocery store if they had their mask down.
Yeah.
Like women would come up to my mom and be like, "Are you serious?" Or they got my new dog at their new dog at a pound or whatever, or the animal place, and they took the picture and my mom had her mask down a little bit, and then everybody on Facebook, my mom didn't even post it. It was like the pound place, I think, posted it, and everybody in the comments was like, "Her mask is down. This is inappropriate. Like, how can you?" Like, they're pressuring about her lack of mask wearing. And she's like, "I just pulled it down to take the picture, or whatever."
Yeah, I mean,
people are just out to, have something to complain about.
That's media, though. That's like, to bring it back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
All influence, and like, how much did the fear hit you? It depended on where you were at. How much did it hit your community? People that are in closer spaces like Chicago,
that's true,
suburbs, my kid, like, people are going to be a little more frantic, a little more scared.
I had a friend who had a sister she had like an immune deficiency thing, and she was living in Chicago, so it was like an insane situation where she can't go out and she can't see anybody. It's like super high level of make sure everything is clean, and it's a lot of stress on their entire family, because they all have to pitch in, and then when you go to see her, you have to quarantine to see her, and then they're helping her for a while, and then whatever. I talked to him a little bit about it, because he had to move from Wisconsin to Chicago, so I didn't see him much after, but from everything I heard, it was just insane.
Excuse me. I think to kind of like, I guess, segue this, like, a lot of like that was focused around what information were you getting during that time, because I remember you could find anything under the sun that backed up what you were thinking, or what you wanted to hear, basically, like, so it makes me think about the difference between, I guess, before and after COVID, how I'm finding music. Genuinely, like, before, let's just say COVID, when I was growing up, a lot of my music was through friends, family, like sister and brother influence. What old YouTube was very like, the algorithm and the recommended was very good. It was actually similar type of music that you could just rabbit hole down. While I feel like I've had and that kind of allowed me to really flesh out different kind of things that I'm into, right? Music, movies, TV shows, people, internet stuff, even, not necessarily like
how the internet worked when we were younger, kind of a thing.
And now I feel like I'm having more trouble finding new things, new music that I like, even though there's so much more avenues of music and like different media sources.
It's like you can go to a festival and see some new people, but outside of that, it's really hard to find somebody who's not like a huge band or something who's good and you like, without going on SoundCloud and sorting through all because I think another part of the whole COVID thing and moving towards a more like creative based economy, essentially, is what we're talking about, is that you have all of a sudden thousands of more people who now have a dream to be the next musical artist. And so now you have a huge influx of people who are trying to do that, have been doing it now for 2 or 3 years, that are trying to be better than everybody else. And then you still have just the normal high schoolers who are just putting up 1 or 2 songs every year. So it's like there's so much more content, I think, that makes it really hard to find what you're looking for. Because before, in whatever 2012 or something, you would have to be a pretty big band have a high quality YouTube video, you know, with the good music that somebody could like rip off and put on their iPod or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, otherwise it's kind of not. It just wouldn't be professional at all. You just couldn't do that at home. So I think now, and it partially I think is you're right. It's the algorithm, because the old one was so much more of there's all these other people who watch this video and also watch this video and engage on this video, and so okay, we'll show you this one next,
rather than like a very more like single like algorithm for you, you know, the whole for you page. Like it's less about like the algorithm of like this video connects to this video and this video connects to that video. It's like the actual person's engagement, you know, and the people's phones around you and their engagement and stuff. But no, I think that I see that in a lot of ways. Like the algorithms have changed, and it's actually kind of forced me to like change the way that I like research music. But don't get me wrong, I mean, sometimes I'll get hit with like a song and I'm like, damn, this found me.
You're like Discover Weekly or whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, Discover Weekly or like TikTok I use. Yeah. You know, but like I try to only like mute like certain things because it's like really weird. Yeah. I don't like TikTok, you know, but it's useful for a lot of things. Yeah. But for example, like music, I'll randomly get hit and I'm like, why is this so spot on? Like, a lot of the things that get directed, I'm just like, I don't know. It's just too much.
Yeah, it's really hard.
So it's been tough for me. Like a lot of like my music went from artists and then diving into the artist to like more just songs now, and I feel like a lot of people are dealing with that. It's a lot more bite size. Artists don't need to make albums anymore. Like the whole music label way is everybody knows that's not
like
the best
why would
way.
You make a 10-minute song?
No.
You know, like
no, you need enough for.
It's
a
even
video.
hard. It was hard back in the day to understand why you would make a 10-minute song.
Yeah,
because it takes up like half of a vinyl. You know what I mean? But now it's the other side of nobody's listening for more than 30 seconds when they first hear it.
These are dope, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, some coasters.
Yeah. These like actual. Can you play this?
I haven't tried. You probably could. They have grooves on them, but they might just be circles, you know. So it'd probably just sound like.
No, it doesn't look like it actually. Maybe, but aren't there like mini vinyl? Like there's
there's 45s. They're like single songs, and they'll have one song on the front, one on the back.
Yeah, that's dope.
But I have a 45 that they printed on a like plastic plate. They did it at Pitchfork. It was some like reusing, but they used new plastic plates for every one.
So wait,
I don't know.
I'm confused. Did they make like plates you can eat off of?
Well, they had like plastic plates that you would, you know, disposable plates.
Yeah.
And they had record presses. So they have like this hot machine that you press and you can press vinyl with. Yeah. Right? It's like old school. And so you got to pick what song you wanted out of like a couple of the artists who were there. They'd take a plate. They'd cut off the rim, put it in where the vinyl would go, and then you like melt it to shape. Yeah, it works. I don't know. I don't think it works well anymore because it's so flimsy that it, you know. But I put it on my record player and it worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy crap!
It's like anything that has a groove that the needle can go in will make a sound.
I don't understand the science of vinyls at all.
Yeah, that's insane.
That was like past my time, and I think my sister was the one that was like, I want a vinyl player. I'm gonna go this whole like.
I spent a lot of money on vinyls, and then I have one part of my vinyl player that broke. And
is an important part.
Yeah, so there's the main turntable.
Okay.
And then you have a preamp. So what the preamp does is it takes a signal from the turntable and converts it into a signal that speakers can understand. So it takes the analog symbol, turns it into digital so that a digital speaker can hear it through whatever MP3.
Okay.
And the cord that powers the preamp is the same cord that powers. It looks the same as the cord that powers the turntable.
Oh, no.
But the turntable one is a lot more powerful. So I keep plugging in, I'm just setting everything up, plug in the turntable power cord by accident into the preamp, and it just fries it. And I fried like 5 of them. Because you get it right and you leave it and it's good, but I don't have a place to leave like a record player set up. So I always have to take it down and put it away. And then, I take it out, push it in, and it just fries it. And each one's like $30 for like a cheap one, you know, because I used to get the nice expensive ones, but now and I have to get another one.
That's a lot.
It's just you like remember when you first get it, and the first couple of times you play your record player, like, oh, this is perfect. I'm so glad that I spent this money. Like I have all these records that I have, and I never get to listen to them. And then you're just setting it up one day, and you just forget, and just touching it, just putting it in, bang, dead. Isn't that so annoying? But I could have gotten the preamp included on it. Oh,
I'm a ninja, dude. It's a little fruit fly.
I know. It's the plant because of the dirt, I think.
You can keep recording. You think I can get some more coffee?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna
take a break.
some.
I need some more water anyway.
You're always so hospitable whenever people come over, dude. I'm very impressed, genuinely.
Cheers.
You always got some sort of nice hors d'oeuvres, drinks ready. You can't see it on the cameras, but he's got a little like bartender spot in case he wants to whip something up. Yeah, what you do, bro. I always appreciate it, for real.
I always liked hosting, especially because, like I was saying, when we lived in Wisconsin, we just never had people over.
Yeah,
there just was nobody really out there. So
I'm pissed I never got to, like, I didn't.
Well, I know you came up when we were at Marquette, because I have some Polaroids of you and when we first got Toby, and he's like this tiny little thing.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's when you go up there and you're alone and there's nobody there, it's like you have to start to figure out, okay, what's important.
Well, I'm glad you guys are back, so we can,
me too.
So many people are just far enough to where we can congregate.
And it's nice to have a place too that's sort of central, where it's like, you know, a lot of people don't have a place.
Yeah.
So it's like nice to have that and be able to share it, you know?
Did you hang out with Josh and Marina last night?
No, we decided just to stay in and not have anyone over. But we might do something tonight, I don't know. Noah texted me earlier.
Yeah. We can definitely do something later. I'm totally down.
Okay. Yeah.
But I had a question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because, you know, for a lot of our friends, it was like school, and now everybody's kind of back.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of like time of growth that like the people I care about, my friends,
sure.
and I want to like know. You know.
Yeah. Because we've been. Yeah. No, there was like a 5-year hiatus. You know.
Okay. So. Kind of cheesy, but
go ahead.
How has your education changed you from, let's say, like comparing from like up here, you know, to you leaving for college? Like, how do you think it's shaped you?
So, like, how has my education at college shaped me?
I've known you, and I didn't, you know, those weren't really conversations we're having at the time in high school. How are you enjoying school? You know? But like your experience in Naperville schools, let's say, and then you leaving. College is more the meaty thing I want to hear, obviously, but like if you want to include that.
Yeah, well, when I came back, there's definitely a lot of like memories and thoughts you have that come back. And like one of the big things I was so frustrated about was, you know, why was I spending so much of my time and energy doing like wrestling? It was like my whole life for 4 years. I feel like I just didn't ever expand outside of that. Yeah. There's other things I wanted to do that I did like freshman year, but then I stopped doing because it was kind of, you know, my wrestling coaches were like, really, you're going to play water polo? Yeah. Or, oh, you're doing the musical? Like, come on, like, what are you doing? Like, stop playing around. But I still like did choir all 4 years, you know, like men's choir before school. And I did a lot of other stuff sort of in that vein, but yeah, I don't know. But I remember when I did my final wrestling match, I was so relieved. I was like, oh, good. Like, I almost kind of gave up on the mat. Yeah. Because I was like, there's so much pressure that's been associated with this that just to be done with it was like nice.
And your final match was sometime in college, you said? So you did a little bit in
high school.
In high school.
Yeah. Okay. I went to a college with no wrestling team. Yeah. Just so I couldn't like make kind of even like get slipped into it.
Smart move.
I know. And I wanted to do other stuff, like I did rowing, and it was a lot of fun. And it was nice to have a girls' team and a boys' team. So, like, that's where I met Julia. You can't, there's no female interaction on a wrestling team. Yeah. And it's, so whatever. But that's, I guess, not education. More of, like, what you're learning in the classroom. For high school, it was pretty easy for me, except from, like, math and science.
Yeah, you were smart.
Well, it was like I got C's and I got D's. But it was like in math and science. Well, those were more like college. Yeah. I didn't do as well because I thought I was going to be an engineer. Yeah. And that was like my whole personality. Well, not my whole personality, but I never would let myself consider anything other than engineering. But that's the nice thing about college is like, okay, you want to be an engineer? Here's the engineering classes you're going to have to take. And then you start to be like, what's going on? I can't focus on this. I don't like this. And it just started to make me kind of like, I wanted to leave college a bunch of times, you know, call my mom, I'll just go and do IT. I can't do, because I changed my major and then it would be worse. So I changed from computer engineering to computer science, and I just can't code my whole life. Like, this is like the worst thing for me. I can't see myself, like, I can't do the homework.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit in front of a computer and look at code for hours. It just drives me nuts.
My eyes would break.
Yeah. But the thing that I found now is, like, I can stare at writing and I can do, like, work on copy for a marketing email. I can do that for hours, and it doesn't have the same effect, even though it's the same text on a screen. So there's, like, it's very similar but different enough that I'm into it.
Yeah.
That it feels more human connected than just looking at the code. I don't know.
Well, if anything, like, kind of what I heard from that was, like, college allowed you to kind of learn what you didn't like, really kind of explore, fail, and just kind of like, okay, now I'm kind of in a place I can understand. I like this. I enjoy it.
Where in high school, I never had an idea of what I wanted to do after. I wanted to be an engineer because I liked playing with, like, Legos. That seemed like the most fun thing I could think of. Yeah. So if I can do something like that where I'm building stuff, that would be cool. But then you go into engineering school and it's kind of like you're checking a lot of people's work. You're, like, doing back engineering of other, projects and things. Like, your company acquires, like, a new whatever natural gas generation plant, and now you have to learn how the turbines of another company's whatever, how that works, and then you're back engineering it so that your software can work with this other company's gas.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's like so it's just not what I'm into at all. So it was nice to go to Marquette because they have so many different options that I was able to change my major a couple of times and still graduate in 4 years. And they have you take all these gen eds, which a lot of people hate, but it's like that's what allowed me to graduate, because I was able to get an advertising degree because I had all these English classes and I had all these, basic math and statistics and everything else that you needed to get, like, pretty much any degree. So, yeah, that was nice. I feel like, I don't know, it was hard in high school when I feel like I wasn't doing well in physics and I wasn't doing well in math, but for some reason that was never communicated to me, and I was in AP Physics and I was in, like, Calculus AB, where I feel like at some point somebody should have said, like, maybe there's something else that, like, you're doing good in English, but, like, those are just the easy classes.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, that's where I'm, like, able to function, But I never had the conversation with somebody to say, this is what you're doing good in, and there's things you can do along that line that will get you a job.
Yeah.
That's like,
there's just kind of standards that need to be hit rather than like, oh, let's take what you might be good at or what you're leaning towards, or vocational, and really, like, stretch that out.
Yeah. Where it's kind of hard to say. I know there's, like, vocational high schools where you go in and they're like, okay, we're going to start you on the electrician path. And when you graduate, you're going to do 2 years of apprentice work, and then you're going to be making whatever. It's like $125,000 a year or whatever for electrician plus. And eventually you own your own business, and then you have all these other electricians working for you, and you can make just a shit ton of money. Because but there's not very few people being electricians or being plumbers or, like, any of those trades. So they're all worth, like, a lot. But it's, at the same time, that's not what I want to do either.
I think we were lucky as, like, a friend group growing up to be very, like, creative, we made movies, we made podcasts, even white belts, like, we were just having fun with it. And I think you have always been a very creative person. Like, I've known that, I've seen it, even though, like, what you kind of spoke about, like, you necessarily didn't have always the right avenues to express it or try it out, but, like, luckily our friend group did some of that, But I just wanted to ask you now, because I know I'm, like, paying attention to all, like, the new things you're putting out and you're writing, which is, like, super exciting because there's so much creativity not only in you but, like, in our friend group, and I like to see it, like, flourish. You know what I'm saying? So I'm super excited we're even doing this. But I kind of want to, like, dig a little bit. Like, where do you think your creativity comes from, especially with your writing? Like, what do you, like, sit down? Like, what's your kind of AO for getting yourself in that mode of creativity and be like, okay, is it something like ideas just kind of come and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna start there, and you keep going, like, what's going on in Alex's mind, which is always a big question.
So there's, like, the process, and then there's, like, where it comes from, right? So the process kind of helps where it comes from, just because it's a practice where I know if I sit down at my desk and I do like a journal pretty much every day. That's like just a sheet of it in a spiral notebook. And I used to always get the most expensive, nicest paper notebooks, but they're like these smaller ones, and I just do my one page. But recently I was like, just get the cheapest one. It doesn't matter what kind of paper you're writing it on. It doesn't matter what pen you're using. This is just to get, like, prime my brain for the fiction writing that I'm going to do. So I'll write about, you know, if I'm upset about something at work, or if I like something that's going on at work, or something in my personal life that's happening. I'll just get that all down, out of the way, kind of out of my brain, so I can focus on what I'm going to do next. Or I'll talk about, yesterday I really didn't like what I was writing. I don't think I'm going to continue that story, whatever. This reason, I need to work on this, and this. Just kind of whatever's on my mind to sort it. And then after that, I'll just usually pull up a Word document and start typing. And I'll just start going.
So you type, you don't write?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I try to do the writing, and when I edit, I'll take what I've written and I'll handwrite it out, and then I'll retype it up. Because then I get like 2 full reads, and I have to look at every word. But I type so much faster than I can write that it's like I'm more connected. And that's part of, I think, being somebody who used to play so many games and do so much on the computer. You know, I've spent more time in front of a computer than in front of a notepad. So it's just more natural for me to, like, pour out into it. Because the whole thing that I try to get to is to not censor myself, so that whatever I think, I just write. You know what I mean? So usually I try to come up with a title, just because I like a snappy title, so I try to work on, you know, coming up with something that's going to, like, kick off the story.
Hook them in.
Or just give me some sort of intrigue. Okay, what's this about? So I had a title that I liked recently that was like a man, a woman, and a 38 special. So it's like, okay, something about a guy, a woman, and like a bullet. So that's like what you're thinking. Okay, is it going to be a robbery? Is it going to be this? Is it going to... So I worked like 4 different starts and I like, didn't like any of them. So that's where I am now. It's like I have this thing I think is a nice title. I think it's strong. Maybe I'm still going to work with it a little bit. But I like, there's like 3 big ideas. And so now I have to like translate that into some sort of story.
So it's like you picked like a few prompts or a few bullet points, and then just let your mind like flow through that and see what happens. Interesting.
And there's it's a lot of, like, if I have something that I'm doing in my practice one day, it might be different the next day. Like if I sit down and I think of the first sentence before I think of a title, I'll write that sentence, and if I can keep writing, I'll just keep writing and then come back and do a title later. Because it's just like getting out of my way is the main thing. But then also, I don't know, I feel like I have a good sense of whether something's worth continuing on to write or not. So if I write something the day before and I come to my computer and I look and I read what I'm writing yesterday and I can't get through it, or I don't have like this feeling of like, oh, I need to continue the story, I just ditch it. Because if I don't feel like I'm hooked enough to keep writing, then like what's the you know, how am I supposed to convince somebody else to read this and finish writing? So I try to do like 1,000 words a day. That's generally what I do. So it's like 3 pages typed, and then sometimes I go to 5,000, sometimes I only get 600, or sometimes I get none. You know, it's just like nothing's coming, or I'm super busy and I have to prioritize something else that's not writing.
Do you write to be read, or do you write to be seen? You know, like, would you ever write like a more script focused, or is it all like books for you right now?
It's all just books for me right now. I think the more you can sort of specialize, the better you get. So it's like recently I had this huge issue of I've been just writing science fiction. And like 2 days ago I was sitting down like, maybe I shouldn't be writing science fiction, maybe I should be writing fantasy, or maybe I should be writing something that's more like literary fiction where it's modern day, and I should stop trying to go in this like angle because maybe I'm like preventing myself from going to a new direction. But then I'm like, and this is like potentially all true, but at the same time, like, this is what I've been doing. I've been working and honing this. Like there's to go and like deviate at this point just seems like stupid. Like there's different things you can do in science fiction that would be more realistic than on a different planet with half the people are robots. You know, so now I'm going more in like apocalyptic sci-fi, which kind of mirrors what I would like to read and do when I was younger, which I think is interesting, and maybe that's something I can bring in.
Well, I think sci-fi is probably the funnest
for
that
fun.
brain to just go into,
You can have a little more fun, and
funnest.
I like spaceships and guns and all that stuff, so it's just trying to write something that is like something I enjoy, but also other people.
Would you appreciate if I just randomly think of like prompts like that for sci-fi and I just threw them at you and you could be like, let me try?
Yeah.
If you're like, just say no. Like,
no, that's fine. I mean, there's a good chance I'll just store them up, and then if I ever can't think of something to write, I'll...
Right, like what you were saying. Like, if it doesn't continue, it just doesn't continue.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Let me ask you a question. How much longer do we have?
Oh, we're good. I would say like 5-6 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about... So when you're looking for something to watch, like you're looking for a piece of content to consume, that's going to be fiction. What do you look for? And what you're looking for, like when you're scrolling on Netflix, like what makes you stop? What makes you want to watch something versus not?
That's a good question. I think my first visceral reaction a lot of the times is something that I can actually put on in the background. You know what I'm saying? I feel like my attention has been shortened in a lot of ways. But not completely. I would say for like movies, I really like movies that, I guess I would say any media, let's just say TV movies, that is like, makes me think, makes me reflect on myself and, reflects on society, you know? I think that can be done well in a lot of different genres, but I tend to like get word of mouth, or I'll see a video about it, and I'm like, okay, I want to like go watch it. So a lot of the times my inspiration comes from like YouTube and like other media sources that are like, hey, here's a little blurb into it, which is not how it used to be. And I think, I don't know, it really depends. It ranges from like I really want to think to like I don't want to think at all, and if it's anywhere in between, I'm like, it's weird.
No, I know what you're saying, because there's shows that I've watched that are story-based fiction, like Trailer Park Boys. I've seen it 8-9 times through. But if I want something in the background, I throw it on. I don't have to pay attention. I can kind of look and see what's going on, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know where they are. I know what part of the story they're in.
Yeah.
But there's like, it's like Oats Studios does a lot of those like sci-fi robot movies. Like I think they did like like a lot of them are in South Africa. They do whatever. There's a lot of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Robot movies they do that are like sci-fi, and it's all about, this class struggle is like a really central theme in what's going on. And so I can sit down and watch that, and it's all like visceral, and there's explosions, but it's also this like class struggle theme that goes on throughout the entire movie. So yeah, there's those two opposite sides of, if it's something where they're not taking it, I don't know. Like, what would be in between? Do you see, like, just kind of, like, reality TV where there's not really, like, a point to it, but it's also, I don't know. You know what I mean? Some of it's, like, you can sit down and watch some TLC shows and just waste a whole day.
Yeah.
Because it's so, like, it's, like, manufactured to, like, they show you 3 episodes ahead in the prequel, not what's happening when they come back from the break.
I think it's, really is rooted in, like, my intention when I'm watching media. And when that is easier for me to explain when it comes to music.
Sure.
Because a lot of the choice around music is like, okay, either this caught me in a mood and really fit it, and I'm like, okay, I now have this song for this type of feeling. Like, I really listen to music for like the experience. Like, okay, I like this type of music because it makes me feel this way, or this type of music because it makes me feel this way. Oh, I'm feeling this way, and I need to change how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So I have a song for that.
Yeah.
So I have my kind of just background music that I know that I don't really have to listen to, and then there's the music I want to sit there and fully envelop
myself. Close your eyes, turn off the lights, and just
and that kind of changes or is similar to the way I would do, watch movies or TV, or the way I pick it is like, okay, am I going to intentionally sit down here and like put my full attention to like the details, the story, how it connects, the character development, the character acting. Like that's why I love stuff like Sunny. It's like, sometimes I just like paying attention to how well someone is acting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, obviously we both have like history and like enjoying film in a semi-different way. Once you get into film, you're kind of like watching things differently. But like, do I want to think like that, or do I want to just kind of be that like Transformers, like,
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of choice, and because there is so much choice now, I don't, on
it's
how
hard
to consume
even pin
media.
Down, like, I
get to pick how I want to consume media.
Because it's so much of what mood you're in at each time. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just consumption. I consume a lot of different types of media.
Yeah, sure.
I love long form YouTube video, deep philosophical. So it's just what do I want? I can have access to. So it's a bunch of different types of things.
Oh shit! Let me turn that off.
You good? What is it?
I had to put on a 20-minute timer when you said 20 minutes, just so I didn't go too far over.
That's all good. We can kind of wrap things up
we'll
here.
Wrap it up.
But I guess final point with that would just be, we live in such a different time, and I think there's so many options for us to consume media that can be overwhelming. So try to find your own balance of how you consume things versus create things. Is very important nowadays, and I think everybody's adjusting to that in different ways. And
I think a big part is what do you do from the side of somebody who's creating. It's what do you do to stand out from the other 1,000 people trying to write a book.
Yeah. Well, I think the way you do that is not care about that.
Yeah, exactly.
And really just delve into your own work,
Yeah, but the whole thing is you gotta at some point share. You know what I mean? So
True.
If you just make movies and you never share them with anybody, it's like, yeah, you probably have good.
You can't just
movies,
expect
but
things to blow up.
You can't expect, yeah. So it's hard. Okay.
But
thanks. That was good.
It was a fucking pleasure.
Yeah,
my fucking boy. Thank you for having me over.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's go play a Dota tournament and win.
Yes,
boys. But
all right.
We should do some more creating.
Yeah, we will.
Whatever it is, I'm interested. So all right. Thanks out, brother.
All right, that was really good.
Yeah, that was really fun.